Hey. Hello, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Welcome to the 4th Annual Forum for Open Research in MENA. We're so glad to have you all with us. For anyone joining us for the first time, the forum is a regional platform that brings together researchers, librarians, policymakers, and open science advocates from across the MENA region and beyond. It aims to advance open research practices and promote collaboration, highlight the importance of accessibility, transparency, and inclusivity in the research ecosystem. Next slide, please, Victoria. Right, so before we begin, just a quick bit of housekeeping. I'm sure most of us are aware and familiar with Zoom and its features, but here's a quick refresher. So first, there's a movable window feature where you can minimize the meeting and move the small window to the side if you need to multitask. Second, if you feel any of our speakers are speaking a bit too quickly, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll let them know to slow down a bit. Third, if you're facing any technical issues, please leave a message in the chat and our team will be able to help you. And finally, if you have any questions for our speakers, please post them in the Q&A box and we'll get to as many as we can during the discussion segment at the end of each presentation. So this session is titled Encouraging Open Access Advocacy, and it features presentations from Dr. Samir Hashani, Dr. Jambirol and Tuba Akbayturk from Koç University, and Dr. Kira Hopkins from COPIM Open Book Futures, and Lucy Barnes from Open Book Publishers. Each speaker will have 25 minutes to present, followed by a 5-minute Q&A at the end of their talk. So without further ado, let's begin with our first speaker, Dr. Samir Hashani. Dr. Hashani is a professor at the Institute of Library Science and Documentation at Abu al-Qasim Saadallah University. He is deeply passionate about open access and specializes in open peer review and predatory publishing. And over the years, he has attended numerous conferences and authored many papers on these topics. And his main research interest lies in fostering cooperation across the global South, with a focus on its benefits for the Arab world and its academic communities. And his presentation today is titled Open Access in the Arab World, a Wealth in Programs and a Dearth in Cooperation, which explores how open access, often described as a revolution in knowledge sharing, has transformed research dissemination globally, particularly in the Western world, where it's become a key part of scholarly communication systems, but in the Arab world still faces challenges. So Dr. Hashani, please, the floor is yours. You can share your presentation.
Okay. Should you stop the sharing so I can share? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Again, thank you very much for having us here. I'm very happy to be with such a distinguished panel of people presenting my research, which is open access in the Arab world, a wealth of program and a dearth of cooperation. This is before starting the presentation itself. This is one of the issues that I have been investigating. I have been researching, which is the cooperation, not only at the Arab world, because this is my presentation, but in general, because open access itself is cooperation, sharing, and implementing some ideas. If we do not share it, then the advantages that we may get of it, we get lost. So you see that. What's happening? Okay. Okay, open access. I don't, this is something that everybody knows about it. It's recent, but it has given great stride in revolutionizing scholarly communication after the first initiatives, which have launched a new way how to approach knowledge sharing, and also everybody knows about that how internet has been very important in this endeavor. Let's say that we have over 2/3 of the humanity now having internet, while at the beginning around 1995 was 0.5%. Okay, at the same time, we have this, what we call the serial crisis, which has made access to information practically impossible, even for big and wealthy global global north institution. Also, we have this issue of oligopolistic and power publisher Elseviers, and which control 80% of what is published worldwide, which has made this compounding of this problems or issues have made the inception of open access unavoidable. And it started at the beginning with in Budapest with the researchers, then in Bethesda it become more and more organization. Then after Berlin, now open access has become practically a buzzword, if I may say, in all over the world. In the Arab world, we have 22 nations in different size, well, but a lot of common. 22 states stretching from the Atlantic to the Arabian Gulf, over 13 million kilometers square, and a population over 480 million inhabitants. Its combined GDP per capita is at 19,581 US dollar, but there is divide between countries that are, for example, in the Peninsula Arabica and the oil countries, and other countries who have other income. Most of the Arab world speak Arabic with different dialects and have foreign language as second language. This language, mainly French and English, result from the colonial period. Most of the Arab world adheres to Islam, but a significant Christian minority is there. Now, higher education in the Arab world, there is, I said, a contrasted, let me see, because, okay, sorry. So the higher education Arab world in contrast picture. Due to colonization, higher education rather recent in Arab countries. Of course, we compare it to other countries. Most of the universities were founded after independence in the mid-50s or the beginning of the 60s. Although the University of Al-Qarawin or Zitouna University are considered the oldest continuing university in the world, having started as madrasa long time ago. Most universities are public, although there is a trend toward privatization, especially in the Gulf state, with branch campuses, notably in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Different ministry of higher education state control and guide the way education is dealt with that. And that is in some way an advantage for the prospective cooperation. We'll see that being the public is an advantage in the picture that we want to say. Of the 22 Arab ministries of higher education, 11 or half of them have higher education scientific research designation, which shows a goal assigned to this ministry. A closer look at this different constituency of this ministry does not show open science, open access programs or departments that promote open access specifically. There are certain departments, certain services, so on, but not specifically to open access. There are constituencies related to scientific research, but not specifically to open access. the national scientific research bodies, such as the Algerian Directorate General of Scientific Research and Technological Development, supposedly in charge of scholarly communication, do not devote any effort to open access. Here, I would like to say it's not that not devote, but there is not specifically, as we will see, a policy of how is open access is implemented in this country. The Gold Road, okay, it's the preferred way by which Arab researchers publish. For example, if we go to the DOAJ, which is the main and the biggest directory, we can see that, and this the countries that are here, we'll see will basically with some different sometimes some differences are the same. So we have Egypt, Iraq, Morocco, Algeria, which have, so to speak, respectable numbers in the DOAJ. The African Journal Online. Why I'm saying the African Journal Online? Because I'm taking this from the Global South perspective, and also that Mauritania, Morocco, and Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt belong to Africa. Also, those who know, AJOL is a site that tried to promote what is published by and for African. So being there, present in this country, the North African country, which are Arab also, that shows what is the important they give it. Again, we have practically the same numbers. Algeria at the top, and Egypt with this this number. But let's say, for example, AJOL, the number of Arab countries from Africa are far away, from example, from Nigeria or South Africa, with, for example, Nigeria, 348 journals. The Green Road, there seems to be less tendency to use the Green Road than the Gold. And this is for many reasons, and for example, an ignorance of what is exactly the Green Road, and also supposedly less rewarding outcome. People do not see how putting their work in a repository would give more than an article that is published in a journal. For example, we will see ROR, a Registry of Open Access repository. We have, again, same country at the top, but also we can see that some countries are simply have practically none or not at all. Which is, for example, I asked myself, for example, how is Palestine with all the hardship they're going through? They have 7 repositories that other countries that, you know, have better situation economically and so on, do not have one or you know, not even a repository. Again, DOR, Director of Open Access repository, we have also practically the same picture. And for example, I said Palestine, despite the hardship, it's going to have more reports than Morocco, Tunisia, Somalia, Kuwait combined, which is, we'll see later on when I get practically to the point I want to show that this is not, there is no cooperation, there is no exchange and so on. Now, I will speak about the national portals. Everybody knows that the due to proliferation and exponential increase of scholarly journal, it is practically impossible to know how many journals there are, how many journals are basically open, not open, hybrid, and so on and so on. One of the solutions are portals, directory, call it listing, registry, which region of criteria based on subject, field, country, date of foundation. National portal are, in this instance, a real window to what a country produces. Okay, so every country has national portal that, or sometimes also we have regional portal that show what a region produces. So we'll see here. We have this national open access portal, number of journals and links. We have Egypt, Algeria at the top. But I will say something because I know and I have presented something about it. Algeria, especially Egypt, tend to go more into numbers and not quantity. Adversely to some people like Saudi Arabia, when you see you have only 41 journals, but when we see the journal itself themselves, it's the journal, you see that there are not many journals, but there are journals that go directly to what is open access, and that their peer review, for example, is more serious than the other one. The commentary for this, again, Algeria and Egypt have enacted quantitatively respectable portal. Libya, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia have also enacted a national portal, but they may have focused on quality rather than quantity. I have seen, just taken a look at this portal, national portal, and you could see that some of them have simply, it's just a hodgepodge, like we say in English, of journals, and they do not show what is a country producing, but produce just a number of journals just to produce it. And also we have some of the country who have either, for example, Tunisia, Iraq, and Qatar, the sites are not working. The other one have very low number or not number at all. The solution, what is solution? I have shown this number, this statistic. As seen previously, statistic parent in Arab world show a big discrepancy between the members. There seems to be a clear leadership for Algeria, Egypt, and respectively open access of a repository and open access journal. I said the same. A number of countries either do not have open repository, open journals, or have very few, leading to the question if there is an awareness. That is one of the keyword of what open access can bring to a country scientific community. Countries such as Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain, despite their obvious good financial statistics that are up to par to their situation. I mean, you have countries that are rich oil country, but you find, for example, I think Qatar have only one open repository, which is for a country that is leading in many other instances, is just, disheartening. Palestine, for example, World Health have been gone through, showed statistics that are sometimes better than those of more stable countries. We saw that in the North, for example. All this number beg for an explanation, action that will give open access to the right place in its Arab scientific communication. Although openness, not only open access, has invaded the world, the communication is the Arab world and global South, for that matter. That is one thing also I will speak about global South. That does not seem to be enough of its importance. Different countries work alone, although common geography, language added to financial support are there. Every country works its own way. While in Europe, for example, Horizon Europe, Open Air, Open Research, so on and so on. South America with Cielo, Redalic, and Latindex. Australia and New Zealand, open access in Australia, Curtin organization, Asia, all pool and share the program and initiative. There does not seem to be similar steps in Arab world. As far as we know, one of the problems being the lack of sharing and dissemination and even information retention. There is only one directory that groups open access Arab in the world, which is the directory of Free Arab Journal. As far as I know, but I don't think I have been working on open access for so long, but it's the only one. Again, the director of Free Arab Journal, it's an example in need of duplication. Was founded in 2013, a master student trying to do her job could not find something where Arab journals, open access journal, were together. So we have at least the 18 country. Again, we have not basically, but perhaps Saudi Arabia has more than Egypt, but we have this same thing that we feel that people are just publishing open journal or so on with no how would I say no clear path. All this situation previously shown indicate a clear absence of well-thought open access in the Arab world. Most of the program initiatives are simply put improvised and not well planned and designed. All the Ministry of Higher Education do not seem to have a clear path when it comes to open access. And not a single ministry, as far as we know, of course, has a department, a scientific body, a directorate specializing or specifically devoted to promoting open access. Previous research I present something in Istanbul, has shown that even at small scope in North Africa, there is no cooperation nor information sharing. There were some in 2014, something like that, the ISTEMAG programme, optimisation de l'accès de l'information scientifique et technique dans les universités du Maghreb, has not yet so far any tangible result. It was funded by Tempus, the European Commission, the DIVITER project, which was underlying project for professional master on the territorial development, management, tourism, and promotion of heritage in 6 universities from Lebanon, Algeria, and Syria. So far, we do not know what happened of this or what are the result of these programs. Okay, the preceding statistics have shown a number of trends that we could summarize into. For example, as I said before, Algeria, Egypt mainly have undertaken clear forward path in gold and green road. Some other, Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain again, although financially do not have a clear policy in open access in either road. The rest of the country have either very basic presence in both roads or are simply absent. Palestine, again, is worth nothing, as I said before, shows in some instances that efforts are made to promote open access despite hardship. There is a correlation between the economic situation of a country and its open access policy, although in some instances there are discrepancies that need explanation. What I said, people who are, well off financially could invest more in open access, although we have seen that it's not the case. So I propose something again. The Arab Council for Open Access, a clear path for open access in the region. The statistics have shown indicate clear absence and unifying policy regarding open access in the Arab world. There not seem to be action initiative that do not see implementation nor follow-up. Every country works in autarky and does not share nor disseminate its result, experience, advances, or discovery. There is a clear mistrust and lack of will of sharing, pooling, and mutualizing what is being made. Some countries rely more on foreign help and do not solicit Arab countries' help, which answer more indigenous needs. Okay, here I'm going to speak about some intrinsically Arab organization that could help in what I said, the Arab country, the Council of Arab Country and Open Access. There is a dearth, an acute absence of cooperation. There are organization body that could help in this existing endeavor, exciting in the endeavor. That could be summarized. The Ministry of Higher Education at every country. They all have bodies that are specifically for scientific research, like some of this I talk about here. The Arab League Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, ALECSO, which is in the auspice of the Arab League, could take the lead as a transnational organization encompassing the 22 countries. So we should have something that is on top, that will show and sometime implement and even impose some rules on Arab concept. There is also the Association of Arab University. This could pool and coordinate universities' effort toward implementing and imposing mandate, like in some countries. Everybody knows the menu research, which has yielded a good result. Menu University in Portugal. This institution, I spoke with the research body, ALECSO, and everything. There could be also scientific events sustaining and encouraging the missing. These could be summarized in the following. We all know that the Arab Federation for Library Information, AFLI, which every year holds a congress in different country. The ANACONS being a gathering of Arab researchers, a commission, okay, a commission of firm prerogative could be put in place and work at coming up of a roadmap for open access in the Arab world. I participated in 2007 in Jeddah, and we all met there and we spoke about a subject. We could create a commission that will specifically set the rules for open access in the Arab world. Also, between 2014 and 2018, every 2 years, the International Colloquium on Open Access gained steam, being organized first in Tunis, twice, then in Rabat. Unfortunately, it was stopped by the COVID pandemic. The ICOA, which I participate twice, was a very good, also a very good forum. Had it not been stopped, it would have been a good start for a centralized Arab open access initiative. Following what has been stated in Civic Ribbon Open Access, there is an unavoidability to put in place a body to oversee this open access initiative in the Arab world. The Arab Council Open Access would encompass 22 countries, the 22 countries making up the Arab world. They would closely work with the ALECSO as a central body dependent from the Arab League. Would be a virtual council, of course, with no physical headquarters, meeting virtually with every country, assuming presidency on a rolling basis for a determined length of time. The APLI yearly conference also could be gathering of the council to debate what has been done and what needs to be done. The organization of Arab University also could play in setting the tone and implementing unified mandate that every university will impose on its constituency. Conclusion, at the end of this research, in light of the statistical trend, we can present the following. Open access in the Arab world is not well implemented. Right? I know that because I have been working on this issue for a long time. We feel a certain improvisation and a solo work from the mobile country. Nobody share what country A with B, and even sometimes, as I said before, retention of information. Some countries, although implementing open access according to international, do not share their experience. Other, while well off financially, do not give open access its rightful standing in society that are in dire need for to access information. There is also clear information retention. This is one thing that I experienced, which makes initiative not sharing. Regional tension make cooperation hard, if not impossible. We certain countries which are not in good relation with the other one may not share or even cooperate. There is a clear need for an unified organization that would put the foundation for sound Arab open access country. There is an Arab, for those who understand Arabic, said اتفق العرب على أن لا يتفقوا, which is the Arab have agreed never to agree. Let's make this saying not right by working together and not and sharing what we have done with the other, so the Arab country would advance in open access and have their right place being a powerful regional constituency. Thank you very much. I hope I have not gone over time.
No, you have not. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was great. I have a question myself, but I'm gonna wait and see if anyone else has a question. We have about 5 minutes for questions. Okay. Until we get.
Let me just say something. When there is no question, either nobody understood anything or understood everything. This is what
Yeah, it's
I hope it's
definitely
everybody understands everything.
Okay, well, I think I'll just ask mine for now. So you mentioned earlier that in a country like Palestine, where there's significant unrest, to say the least. I mean, that's an understatement. There's still like notable instances of open access advocacy, even more so than in some of the region's more stable countries. And to me, this suggests that the implementation advocacy may go beyond infrastructure or funding, and could this be cultural? And if so, how can we use that as an aspect to advocate or encourage open access as a movement within the region?
I think I said that the title of my presentation is it says it all. It's the cooperation. I mean, as I said, talked about Palestine, and everybody knows what Palestine is going through. And when you find that it has more than some countries which are in stable condition, that is, for example, I've always thought that perhaps in a rich oil country, they have the financial mean, they could help those who have perhaps the researcher, the people interested in this, so we could pool. It's sharing, pooling, and cooperating. See, as long as we do not cooperate, and also there is one thing that breaks my heart is when you see countries like we see what's happening in South America, which with Red Alec and Latindex and Cielo, which are now being cited as example even in Europe and in the United States, while in the Arab country there is this absence uh, for many reasons, and some of them have also to do with some political, political problems between countries, and also we do not have this culture of sharing, of giving. Okay, well, if I have my own statistic, my own work, I do not share it. While, for example, we have many things at least the language. At least
Yeah.
the language. All this country, the 22 country, or almost half a billion people speak Arabic. Of course, there are dialects, but speak Arabic. So we could have a database that is specifically Arabic, not only in Arabic as a language, but from Arabic. Could be in Arabic, could be in English, could be French, many other countries. The three languages that are spoken,
Right.
English or French, especially in North Africa, and we could this cooperation could yield. I'm sure not could, but I'm sure will yield good good result for the good of our countries.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Well, we have a question from Dr. Kira Hopkins. Can't seem to be using the. Okay. So what do you think are achievable first steps would be towards this vision on national or even institutional levels?
Would you say that again? Excuse me. I have bad.
So what do you think achievable first steps would be towards this vision on national or even institutional levels?
I think that one of the problem that I've been working on open access almost for now perhaps 15 or 20 years, something like that. We do not have, uh, at least I speak about Algeria, but perhaps I am generalizing that because we have basically, especially in North Africa, the same problem, the same issues, is we do not know how much open access would, as people from the global south, would help us not only in scientific endeavors in scholarly communication, but also because access to information would also lead to development in other matters, not only in scholarly communication, because we do not share, we do not cooperate, we will not get, not, I wouldn't say we will not get anywhere, but we will not advance, especially that the time now is it's globalization, and also, as I said, countries and regions that have less things in common have pooled their work, pooled their efforts to come up. As I said, the best example is the Cielo and Red Alec and the Latindex and so on, which is cited now as an example worldwide, not only in Global South or in Latin America.
Thank you. One final question before we move on to the next presentation. This is from Dr. Burrell. He says, I was wondering how many scientists from Arabic universities on average apply to international grants. Would that be greater motivation to cooperate on open science given mandates from such international institutions?
Well, I do not have obviously the numbers, but I know for for a matter that there is this trend of the Arab researcher to go to Europe or the United States I can't tell you, but it is not a trend, but a need, okay, a need, because people, if we stay in your country, I'm not saying, I'm not hitting on the higher education in our countries, but whether one likes it or not, language development are in other countries. So there is this, which is a very good question, because instead of there is an intra-Arabic cooperation, which would yield more advantages for us, there is this brain drain also, which most of these people, when they go, they find much better condition. They never come back. Most of them. Also, there is this, question begs for perhaps it's not a question about it, but there is also brain drain. This brain drain also will act on the other side by not taking the best, so to speak, and let them working for global North institutions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have to move on to our next presentation. Maybe either, Dr. Chem could
All right.
share the screen. Yes.
Sure. I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Let me see.
So the second presentation in this panel is titled Recent Open Science Endeavors at Koç University, and it will be delivered jointly by Dr. Cembirol and Ms. Tuba Akbayturk from Koç University in Turkey. Dr. Cembirol earned his BA in Economics and MA in International Relations from Koç University, and later completed his PhD in Political Science at Rice University in Houston. His academic and professional background spans research, data analysis, and policy, including work with the Baker Institute for Public Policy and teaching at Yeditepe University. Currently, he serves as a research data coordinator at Koç University, where he supports research data management, coordinates AI projects, and contributes to open science and data governance initiatives. Ms. Tuba Akbayturk has had a distinguished career in academic libraries since 1998. After completing her MLS at Indiana University, she began as a systems librarian and is now the library director at Koç University, overseeing 5 libraries across 3 cities. She has been deeply involved in library governance and advocacy, including serving as the president of the Turkish National University Libraries Consortium from 2016 to 2018, and currently chairs the IFLA Division F. So please, Dr. Birol, the floor is yours. Don't want to take more of your time.
Okay. Actually, Tuma is going to start the presentation. So
yes, I go first. Yeah, thank you for the warm welcome and the kind introduction. It's a great honor to be part of the 4th Annual Forum for Open Research in MENA, and a great topic at a great time. Thank you for the opportunity. While we wish we could be in Sharjah in person and do this presentation in person, again, the existing technology really truly makes the world smaller. So me and my co-presenter, Cembirol, we are really thrilled to be here with you digitally. So before we dive into the details of our open science journey at Koç University, let me first give you some quick background on Koç University. So the university is located on the northern edge of Istanbul, where green forests meet with Bosphorus blue in a beautiful setting. Established back in 1993, we are still a relatively young non-profit private university, and we are strategically supported by the resources of the internationally renowned Vehbi Koç Foundation. Next slide, please. According to the Carnegie classification, Koç University is a leading PhD granting institution. Currently offering 30 PhD programs within our 7 colleges and 4 graduate schools. Altogether, we serve a dynamic student body of 8,000, including 22 undergraduates and 43 master's programs. 10% of our students are coming from international backgrounds. Next slide, please. In just over 30 years, Koç University has become one of the top research institutions in the country and in the region. We are constantly driving development and welfare of Turkey through our research activity. So our goal is to be a center of excellence with a high international reputation, and this has been evidenced by several key achievements. For instance, we are the top performing Turkish institution in Horizon Europe and the top recipient of national research awards. Our publication performance is high and getting higher qualitatively and quantitatively year to year. Our colleges are internationally accredited. Crucially, our business school is the one and the only Triple Crown accredited school in the country and in the region. So university rankings are also considered as important indicators about universities, and we performed the largest year-over-year leap in the QS World Rankings 2026. We have also been ranked as #1 in the country in the last 6 consecutive years, 4 times higher education. Next slide, please. Koç University Libraries. The libraries was established at the same time with the rest of the university, and the university library system consists of one main library in Rumeli Feneri campus, serving the campus community, and 4 off-campus branches specialized in different subject areas. To give one example, Health Sciences Library in our Health Sciences campus supports teaching and research at School of Medicine and School of Nursing. Next slide, please. So the library serves primarily Koç University students, staff, and faculty by providing the necessary resources for learning, teaching, and research. And across the campuses, the 5 libraries include nearly 800,000 printed and ebooks. To supplement the book collection, the library subscribed to 126 databases and over 90,000 e-journals. Libraries also houses rich archives and digital collections. Over 300,000 digital assets can be visited through our digital platforms, and all these assets are on open access. Next slide, please. The support from the library for open science is really multifaceted and built on a strong foundation. While the Higher Education Council of Turkey mandates open science, Koç University has already aimed to lead, and we published our open access directives in 2017. It was before the councils was announced. And we also published our Open Science Directive in 2024. The library really serves as the primary engine behind both drafting and executing these critical policies. QHub Research is a platform developed again by the libraries, and now it hosts about 23,000 publications, and it continues to grow day to day. And 38% of the publications available on the platform they are in open access. Next slide, please. Well, another crucial area is our work on read and publish transformative agreements, and we signed our first read and publish agreement with Cambridge University Press in 2021. And then this has been rapidly grown to 9 agreements in total. And these deals allow our affiliated corresponding authors to publish their work immediately open access without paying the standard article processing charge. So far, 308 authors have benefited from these agreements, And this is an important step in building the university's open access publishing capacity. Next slide, please. We are really pleased to announce the introduction of dedicated article processing fee funding effective for the first time in 2025. This new fund aims to strategically support our top researchers in covering APCs for publishing in the top 5% of journals across all disciplines. Additionally, we are selectively funding publications appearing in journals ranked in the top 10%. A key benefit of providing open access publishing options for prestigious titles not yet included in our current read and publish agreements. Ultimately, this initiative will significantly enhance the university's open access profile, drive higher research impact, and increase faculty satisfaction. So now, without any further ado, I leave the floor to Dr. Cem Birol, who will tell you more about the research data endeavors we have at Koç University. Cem, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to talk about the research data management mostly from the historical perspective. So chronologically, basically, I mean, it all started with Koç University setting up a pretty ambitious goal, first becoming considered a research institution according to Turkish criteria, and then topping that list. That basically, thanks to that goal, the university started to hire pretty impressive scholars who managed to receive grants from European Union like ERC, the Horizons, or Horizon 2020 back in the day. So these are some prestigious grants that they earned. But at the same time, now these sponsorship agencies start to basically convey that, okay, now we're giving you this sponsorship, this support, but we want to ensure that you are basically handling your research data well, because you're receiving our funds, and you gotta know that you handle your research data properly, you protect it, and then once you're done with your analysis, that you disseminate these results openly so that the science continues and so that we have the intended impact to the world. And the same message was almost mimicked by the Turkish national funding institution, which is TÜBİTAK. Shortly later, amidst these pressures, these calls, one thing that was clear was that an institutional adaptation from our part was a necessity now. And thankfully, Suna Price Library was already doing a lot of work about open access. So the library sort of used a similar model to merge with the rest of the world about these emerging open data, open science, and research data management efforts. And that basically part of that operation was sending staff abroad, mostly to Central and Western European universities, doing some benchmarking work, see what good examples that can be out there. And they did learn a lot from that process. And then around 2020, our Information Technologies Office started to join this effort. They contributed by creating policies about data security, cybersecurity, etc., which allowed our university to earn the ISO 27001 standard, which is a good signal about showing the rest of the world that we handle our research data well and protect it. Now, around, let's say, from 2021 and on, the university also had some internal people gathering together and forming a research data management group. We're talking about professions from the directorates of Technology Transfer Office, Library, Information Technologies Office, and the legal departments. And the library side of that group started to give seminars about FAIR principles, how to write a data management plan, how to use these online tools that are available. And recall that, I mean, these are people who went abroad to do a lot of benchmarking. At the same time now, online guides were created. You have one example on this slide. And then at the same time, the library cooperated with the Information Technologies office to create the first research data repository under Content DM backend. So this is where scholars were able to upload their research data with a permanent link, a stable link, and then share it with the rest of the world. This was more of a demo version. It's a small version. We'll touch upon that a little later. And of course, this group also helps scholars to write data management plans. Now, around 2021, writing data management plan was a more challenging undertaking. So what the group did was to gather around and support scholars with their contents, and the support system took 5 to 7 business days to giving feedback back and forth, and so that teachers would ultimately have a proper research data management plan. Of course, this contributed to scholars securing better grants with giving more signals about data responsibility and open science. But with more grants, better signals were required now, and now Koç University was becoming a coordinator institution in European Union grants. But of course, now it's more stronger institutional signals about seriously taking care of research data were needed to be given. So for that, more professionals that are really specifically experts on these data issues were start getting hired. And one was a joint hire by the IT and the legal department, a data privacy coordinator who looked at legal compliance about sensitive data usage, etc., personal data usage. And the second one is the resource data coordinator. So I come to the picture 2 years after this effort started. So in January 2023, I was hired. Now I started coordinating this whole effort of different departments getting together and taking care of the research data management. So with this level of professionalization, we started to create policies specifically about research data management. First, we officialized the research data management group, defined its objectives and functions and names and principles. And then we created a research data policy for the whole university. And that process was arduous. We had to talk to medical scholars, engineers, archaeologists, natural scientists like chemists and biologists, and lab coordinators. And we tried to understand their needs, their problems, and we tried to optimize a policy. And we learned a lot from that. And we gained more recognition also institutionally. Thanks to that, we started to contribute to other policies in the university, such as the technology transfer policy. When update needed for that policy, they call upon us for content, and data governance policy. So this is more about institutional data, not just research data, and the AI governance policy. So 2 members in our group are in the AI governance group of the university, thanks to our all these interactions and experiences. And we also boosted our online presence as the research data management group, and we created a larger website, gave a lot of information on that. And then one of our key services was the digitization of our data management plan support process. So what we did was we first created a Jira-based support system, a support pipeline. And then shortly after that, we connected our service pipeline with that of the sponsored research office, which took care of preparing the sponsorship applications. So thanks to that, we were now able to track every sponsorship application in our institution where a research data management plan was a requirement. What happened was when we traced all these data management plan requiring applications, we automatically sent them information about how to write a data management plan. We sent them pre-filled templates where they had to do minimal tasks to have the finished product. And then we were able to give quick feedback. And we were able to, thanks to that digitization system, reduce our data management support services from 5 to 7 business days to less than 1 day, which we believe is a signal of bureaucratic efficiency. And our basic data management plans were accepted both by Horizon Europe or by TÜBİTAK. So we were doing pretty fine. And then, of course, it is one thing to say we're committed to fair principles and open science in data management plans, and another thing to see whether these scholars comply with those principles. And we started the project in that regard. we worked closely with the IT office and created a research data inventory, and we listed all the research data, all the projects we can in the institution, and then using information from the associated data management plans, we were able to map, created the risk map about research data, and we consulted with those scholars who had the riskiest projects in terms of sensitive data, grant amount, etc., and the length of the consortia. And we just went to those scholars and asked what kind of needs they have, what kind of problems they encounter. Our approach was not to police them whether they comply with the FAIR standards, but go kindly and gently with them, not to be a bother, and ask them how they're doing about their data management plan. That really helped us to see how the riskiest projects were handled in the institution. Of course, this is not a complete solution, but we were able to get cooperation from scholars, which is, I know, in all universities around the world is a problem. And we also contributed to the digital repository. Dr. Akbaytik also talked about it, the QHub Research Repository. We contributed by helping create the projects collection, research project sponsored project collections, and research data project collections in the data repository. And our end goal here is to basically interrelate all these digitally, so projects with research data, with articles, with books, to get a really good sense of the impact of these sponsored projects. And if the European Union or any institution comes to us and we want to see the impact of our funding, now our basically project is going to show them that, okay, we can relate these projects with what kind of data they generated, and then we can show it digitally. So this is one of our, I'd say, rather interesting projects. And our services evidently are not just about servicing our own Koç University community. We are also trying to internationalize our processes. And towards that end, firstly, we applied to international grants just to share our experiences with the rest of the world, with the rest of the region, and to learn from other people. So we're talking about 2 international grants, one of which is a widening grant, but both are in the European Research Council, and one local grant about sharing our experiences. And we're also taking actively part in international organizations. For example, co-chairing the Open Science Thematic Group in IARMA. And right now, actually, they're having a conference in Brussels that I took a huge role in organizing. Due to visa issues, I was not able to attend it on time, but they're basically having their conference right now. And also, I basically published an IFLA, and we're kind of also seeing it important to publish our experiences elsewhere, and we're working towards that as well. So what we'll learn about this process in general, I would disagree, given this story, that it is mostly the Western Europe that dictates or that helps the rest of the world develop in terms of this open science practices, etc. I think this is only part of the story, at least. I don't want to nullify their effect, but it all started with some noble objective of becoming a good research institution, having resources, and at the same time, having a really ambitious and curious administrative staff that went out the rest of the world, did some explorations, and were willing to adapt to institutional pressures and etc. And that's kind of our story, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. Such an interesting example of institutional commitment to open science. And we have a few minutes now for Q&A if anyone has any questions. In any case, we can accumulate them for like at the end of the panel. If you could, for any questions, could you please use the Q&A box? That way we can answer them. Okay, well, the box is there for anyone who needs to ask anything. Like if it comes up later, you could definitely still type it in. But I think maybe for now, we can just move on to the final presentation. Thank you so much again, Dr. Cham and Ms. Tuba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So final presentation of this panel. We're delighted to have with us Dr. Kira Hopkins from COPIM Open Book Futures and Ms. Lucy Barnes from Open Book Publishers. Dr. Kira Hopkins is the Scholarly Publishing Outreach Officer at COPIM Open Book Futures, where she implements Opening the Future, which is a diamond open access revenue model for books and supports the development of the Open Journal Collective. She previously worked at Ubiquity Press as a book editor and journal manager, and also freelances as a book editor and copy editor. Lucy Barnes is a senior editor and outreach coordinator at Open Book Publishers, one of the leading nonprofit scholarly-led open access publishers. She is also involved in outreach for COPIM, serves on the board of the Scholar-Led Collective, and coordinates the Open Access Books Network in collaboration with OAPN, Operas, and Spark Europe. She also sits on the editorial advisory board for the OAPN OA Books Toolkit. Their presentation is titled Advancing Open Access Books Through Community-Driven Collaboration. We'll explore the community-based models and infrastructures developed by the COPIM and Open Book Futures initiatives to support open access book publishing, particularly for smaller presses and academic institutions. So please, Dr. Hopkins and Ms. Barnes, over to you. You could share your screen.
Thanks, Rima. Yeah, I will share our slides. Hopefully everyone can see those. So thank you for inviting us to speak. We're really looking forward to the presentation. I'm going to talk first for maybe about 10 minutes, and then Kira will take over, and then I'll pop up again at the end for the last sort of minute or so. And yeah, we're talking about advancing open access books through community-driven collaboration. And we'll be doing that by describing our work with COPIM. So I'm going to talk about what COPIM is and how it began. And I'll give a kind of brief summary of our activities over the last 6 years. And then Kira will talk about some of the infrastructures that we've built and how these infrastructures have community participation and community governance at their heart. And then I'll pop up again at the end just to speak about some of our more recent international collaborations. And we'll be inviting you to contact us if you're interested in our work and what we're doing. So to start off with, what is COPIM? It's a community of people and organisations. So some of us are researchers, some of us are librarians, there's open access publishers like Open Book Publishers, there are universities involved in COPIM, and infrastructure providers. And some of those infrastructure providers are actually now infrastructures that COPIM itself has built and that have become more mature, as Kira is going to talk about. And what we want to do is we want to nurture and grow a more diverse and scholar-led, community-owned and not-for-profit publishing ecosystem that will enable smaller and more community-focused presses to thrive and multiply. So it's a kind of bottom-up approach, really. We want to build something that will help these kind of smaller, more community-focused organisations. And we want to do that by developing open and community-led infrastructure that will support this kind of publishing. We're primarily focused on small to medium-sized presses, and we're particularly interested in books rather than journals. Not to say that we're hostile to journals or we don't like journals, but our focus is on books. And as a group of people, we don't just come together around activity, we also come together around a set of values and principles. So there are certain things that we care about and that are important to us. And one of those obviously is books, and we care about how we produce them and how we share them. So we believe in open access. We think that publicly funded research should be openly available to a global readership and a global authorship without technical or economic barriers. That's really important. And we also believe that dominant commercial models of publishing, including commercial models of open access publishing, are deepening global inequalities in knowledge production and dissemination. And this is something that we want to build an alternative to. We believe that knowledge shouldn't be treated as a commodity and sold for profit, but that the communities of people who produce and share research should be served by publishing infrastructures that are part of their communities and that have the interests of those communities at their heart. And so this is why we're not interested in profit-driven activity. We're interested in activity that's driven by the communities of people that are interested in research dissemination. And we're interested in building open infrastructures that are controlled by meaningful community governance so that they can't be sold off to a single company, they can't be controlled by a single organisation, but they're controlled by the community that uses them. And we're also developing collectively funded alternatives to inequitable funding models. So this is part of moving away from the sort of dominant commercial models like article processing charges or their sort of counterpart in the books world, the book processing charge, which puts a lot of pressure onto authors or their institutions or their funders to come up with the money. Instead, we're interested in collective funding alternatives and how we can sort of move open access forward in that way. So we want to move away from a model that prioritises the working practices and interests of large-scale commercial publishers and other organisations to a more horizontal, cooperative and knowledge-sharing approach, which is governed by the research community and open for widespread participation by scholar-led and community-driven non-profit publishers. But it can be difficult for smaller and community-driven open access publishing projects to be effective in a publishing landscape that tends to be focused on things like scale and centralisation, and that tends to be dominated by a very small number of very large commercial organisations. These smaller presses and projects can often be scattered. They can not have the resources to develop to their full potential. They're preoccupied often just with keeping the lights on. And this is also not a landscape that's welcoming to new community-led organisations, because there are barriers and hurdles to be overcome before you can get started. I think it can put off a lot of those who might be interested otherwise in this kind of open access publishing. Which makes it difficult for an ecosystem like the one that I'm describing to grow and to flourish. So our sort of response to that problem and attempt to solve it is via something that we call scaling small. And this is basically about building scale, but doing it through collaboration between a lot of smaller organisations. These organisations are, in our case, are diverse, are community-based. And we want to forge a kind of resilience for this community by working collaboratively. And for us at COPEM, a big part of that has been developing collective infrastructure, which we're going to talk a bit more about in this presentation. But it's also about sharing knowledge and best practices, enabling each other to publish more effectively, to grow if they're interested in growing, but without that being something that's necessary to survive. And through that, we hope also to be able to sort of welcome new open access presses and projects that mean that as a whole, the number of open access books that are being published will gradually grow, and that those books will be, in our view, equitably funded and equitably produced. So COPEM has basically been attempting to put this principle of scaling small into practice. And COPEM began as a project. So initially there were several different groups that sort of came together behind this project that at the time we called COPEM. Initially, there was a small open air project, and open air has been mentioned a couple of times in the previous presentations, which brought together some scholar-led open access presses to work on this new platforms for open access book distribution. And those presses then formed an organisation of their own, which was called Scholar-led. And the scholar-led presses were a big driving force behind the first COPEM project. A lot of the kind of intellectual background to that project was shaped and formed in the Radical Open Access Network, which has been a big influence on what COPEM has done since. And there was also a project that was being led at the time by Martin Eve, which was sort of being proposed, had not yet fully been funded and got off the ground, which was knowledge exchange and piloting alternative business models that also became part of that first COPEM project bid. And these were the organisations that were involved in that first kind of iteration of COPEM. So you can see there's a mix of universities, libraries, open access presses, and other kinds of infrastructure providers, mostly based in the UK and in the USA at that time. And the first COPEM project was a 3-year project. The acronym COPEM came from the name of that project, which was Community-Led Open Publication Infrastructures for Monographs. It was initially for 3 years, but because of the pandemic, it was slightly extended. So it was 3.5 years, ran from the end of 2019 to April 2023. And it was funded by Research England, by Arcadia Fund, and by contributions from the consortium partners. And you saw those consortium partners in that previous slide. And so we set about building these infrastructures and, focusing, as Kira will talk more about, on their kind of community governance. And we wanted to focus on specific areas where we felt more support was needed. So these were revenue generation, revenue infrastructures and management. Another was this knowledge exchange and piloting alternative business models, which was focused on particularly on flipping non-open access publishers towards open access publishing. Community governance was its own module within the project because it's really important to us that these things that we were going to build were going to be governed by the community, as I've been talking about, and that it wasn't going to be something where you could sort of sell them off to a company at the end for profit. That wasn't what we were interested in. We wanted to build an open dissemination system so that the open access books will be really effectively shared, because of course it's great to have open access books, but if nobody can find them, they're not so useful. We're also very interested in experimental publishing. What can you do when you've got a digital book that you can't do in print? And also, of course, archiving and digital preservation, making sure these things are available long into the future. And so some of these things produced infrastructures, which kind of, at the end of this first COPEM project, they were produced as kind of proof of concept. They weren't fully independent at this stage. But Kira will talk a bit more about some of these. And we also produced tools, the Experimental Publishing Compendium and the Tote Archiving Network, which again, at the end of this first COPEM project, were kind of in their infancy still. There was a lot of scope for them to grow. And so we applied for and successfully received funding for a second project. And COPEM, by this stage, we sort of were thinking about it more as a community of people and of organisations rather than as tied to a specific project. So this is something that we called the COPEM Open Book Features Project. It's something that's funded and focused our work since 2023 and is continuing to do so until 2026. But we hope that once this project funding comes to an end, the COPEM community itself will continue. And again, we're funded by the same funders, Research England and Arcadia, and the consortium partners. And this time, the consortium that we put together is bigger. So it includes more organisations from further afield. So we've got organisations like Cielo on board, COKI, PKP, in addition to a lot of those publishers and universities that have been part of it from the beginning. And that's been one of the exciting parts of the second project, I think, is building outwards to a more kind of international set of collaborations, which I'll talk more about at the end. And so this second project has sort of built on that first. And so a lot of the kind of components of it have been fairly similar. We've been developing the Open Book Collective, Opening the Future and Tote, as well as the compendium and the archiving network. Community governance has become accessibility, and we've focused on making sure that all of the books are openly accessible, but they're also accessible to different types of readers who require different kinds of assistive technology. And that work package has produced a selection of resources that I think Kira is going to mention a bit more in their section. And without further ado, I will hand over to Kira.
Thank you, Lucy. So yes, as Lucy has just covered, there are many strands of COPEM that have sort of led to this point in 2025. But I'm going to be focusing on sort of where we are now logistically, focusing on particularly the 3 infrastructures that we now have, and look at how they're going operationally and our projections for the future once the project comes to an end next year. Next slide, please. So at this point in time, the Open Book Collective is now a registered UK charity. It builds on and expands library membership program funding models. And what it really does is it facilitates libraries to offer financial support to Diamond open access publishers, some of whom are too small to implement schemes like this on their own, and to open infrastructure providers. Libraries can choose which publishers to provide support to, and they're given a single point of contact and information and administration, which is much easier than having sort of tons of different publishers approach them individually, which is not a realistic use of library time, which is limited. But a real key feature of the Open Book Collective, and another benefit that it offers to libraries who participate, is that they can participate directly in the governance of the Open Book Collective as a custodian. Librarians make up an equally weighted caucus with publishers and infrastructure providers. So these three groups of people are equally weighted. One of the main purposes of this governance is that they can choose which publishers to accept into the Open Book Collective as participants. And they could also choose to remove publishers in the case that their behaviour doesn't any longer fit with the charity's charter. And it's in this way that the Open Book Collective has a strong commitment to community governance. And what this governance does is it helps libraries to collaborate fully with publishers. They're collaborators and funders rather than passive customers as they are in some more conventional models. Next slide, please. Since it began operating fully in early 2023, oh, sorry, could you press it a couple more times? Sorry, I forgot that there was a transition on this. So since it began operating fully in early 2023, it has grown to 14 publishers, including the original scholar-led presses, some university presses, and some small commercial publishers who are mission-driven, and also service providers and infrastructure providers. There are now 85 library supporters who, in this short time, have pledged nearly £1 million to support these infrastructures and publishers. And aside from a 15% slice retained by the Open Book Collective for its operating costs, all of the money is used by the participants to create or maintain open infrastructure or to publish Diamond open access books. So open access books where there's no fee for the author, and that obviously there's no fee to read them either. They then provide annual reporting on their use of the money to the Open Book Collective so that the libraries have oversight of where their money is being spent. There are many active applications currently sort of in consideration from publishers. Publishers are very interested in this infrastructure, and this interest is only growing. And the rapid growth of the Open Book Collective, both in terms of participating publishers, but also supporting libraries, shows that there is an appetite for collectively funded open access publishing in the wider established publishing landscape. And the Open Book Collective is on track to become financially self-sustaining by mid-2026 when the project ends, from taking that 15% slice of the subscriptions. Next slide, please. So some of that 15% retained by the Open Book Collective is sent to its collective development fund. This is an annual grant which supports publishers, infrastructure providers, and others to build capacity for Diamond OA book publishing. A sort of call for grant applications goes out every year, and these applications are then peer reviewed, and the awards are decided by a committee of the reviewers and the other Open Book Collective members. The first round completed last year and funded 3 ongoing projects: a new open access university press in Zimbabwe, increased capacity for OA books and open educational resources at a university press in Nigeria, and a new online community space for open access publishing in North America. The second round of grant applications are currently being assessed, and the results will be out quite soon of that. So through this fund, the Open Book Collective helps to seed new communities and initiatives outside of itself to strengthen Diamond OA publishing globally. Next slide, please. The next infrastructure is Opening the Future, which is the COPAM infrastructure that I myself work on. It's a mechanism by which libraries purchase backlist packages from publishers at a special rate, and the publishers then use this money only to fund their open access frontlist titles. So this enables a participating library to, with the same purchase, enhance their local collection with closed backlist titles, but also ensure that more of the same publisher's frontlist is open access and therefore available to them, but also to everyone else. The mechanism, with its reliance on an extensive closed backlist, was developed to help traditional publishers to transition to open access in a sustainable and low-risk way. It goes one book at a time from the publisher perspective, as they just accrue money from library subscriptions, and then when they can, they publish the next book open access using that money, which is much easier from the publisher perspective than asking them to go all in on open access from the start. In terms of governance, it's very different from the Open Book Collective because it is not in itself an embodied organization. It's not really an infrastructure. Rather, it's a mechanism that publishers adopt. While the two-person team at COPIM on Opening the Future do a lot of work of library outreach and other administrative duties, the financial and legal relationship is directly between the participating publisher and the libraries that support it. And if we were not involved, these relationships can continue without us. And in fact, any publisher can adopt Opening the Future, as our documentation is freely available online, and subsequent initiatives in the same field of collective funding, such as De Gruyter's UPL Open, which some of you may have heard of, have directly referenced it as a foundation for their work. Next slide, please. And could you press it once more? Thank you. In 2021, and rather than we, I mean my current colleague Tom Grady and Professor Martin Eve, who Lucy mentioned, as I joined the year before last. So in 2021, they began a pilot project with two publishers, Central European University Press and Liverpool University Press. We still work with them to this day. And earlier this summer, we also began a partnership with Michigan State University Press, and we have two more publishers joining us very soon. In this time, we've raised about £500,000 from libraries. We ourselves have about 90 library members, which have funded the publication of 45 open access titles, with many more in the pipeline. Last year, so in 2024, this represented about half the front list of CEU Press entirely, and about a third of Liverpool's Hispanic Studies list. Many of these books would not have been published open access without this library support, and it's been very exciting to see this tangible change. Next slide, please. The third infrastructure is tote open metadata, which, as Lucy mentioned, addresses the problems of findability. If books are published open access, but are not easily findable and ingestible by libraries, this totally undermines the point of the titles being open access in the first place. It is now also a registered charity. It's an open metadata management and dissemination platform, also built on open source software and outputting CC0 licensed metadata. As well as distributing and managing metadata, it also provides archiving and hosting services for publishers who wish to use them. It's worth emphasizing that anyone can use the metadata management functions for free. There are some enhanced options such as DOI registration that require a fee, but the idea and the principle is that any publisher is welcome to use Tote to manage their book metadata and generate industry standard records for their books. Currently, 37 publishers use Tote to manage their metadata and other archiving, distribution, and hosting functions for nearly 3,500 titles. Next slide, please. Another major component of our work is education and outreach, and one outlet of this has been the creation of the COPIM Compass during 2024 and 2025. It fulfills a few different functions. It houses some project outputs on open book accessibility and the Opening the Future documentation, but primarily it serves as a signposting exercise for publishers, authors, and libraries who are interested in open access. It collates numerous global resources to do with open access, from toolkits to reports to glossaries and many others, and it organizes them by subject, region, interested audience, and other criteria, and provides short summaries of all of them. This resource is freely accessible, and we continue to add to it as new resources are flagged to us. And in this way, we hope to provide a helpful starting point for people who are interested in open access, but find themselves overwhelmed by the range of resources. And since it went live earlier this summer, we've had about 13,000 accesses of the site, but we're aiming to gather more qualitative data about its use as well, if we can. Next slide, please. So as has been very clear from throughout this talk, COPIM is currently and has been for several years a funded project. This funding comes to an end in April 2026, and so these infrastructures have to be sustainable by this point to continue. And I'm sure some of you listening have been wondering while we've been talking, well, this is all very nice, but how sustainable are these projects when they don't have external funding supporting them? And this is something that the infrastructures have kept an eye on and have been planning towards throughout the last few years. And as I already mentioned, the Open Book Collective has been meeting its financial targets and is on track to be financially self-sustaining via the memberships by the end of the project. So they're aiming to continue to provide the same forum for libraries, publishers, and infrastructure providers to support Diamond Open Access publishing. Tote Open Metadata are one of the infrastructures hosted on the Open Book Collective, so they gather revenue that way, and they also sell services directly, and they are also on track to be self-sustaining after the project, supported by these revenue streams. So both of these infrastructures are in a position to continue their work seamlessly at the end of the project, having generated enough revenue to continue to sustain themselves, at least in the short term. Opening the Future has a very different outcome planned. Unlike Tote and the Open Book Collective, which were formalized as charities early on, Opening the Future was never planned to continue after April of next year. Instead, we're working with our current publishers to ensure that they can continue to implement it without our ongoing support. But we're also in talks with infrastructure providers who can give a lasting home to our model without us, so that new publishers can continue to adopt Opening the Future with a measure of external support. These discussions are fairly advanced, and we have an announcement planned very soon for this home for Opening the Future. But the image that I've chosen for this slide represents our vision of the future in a very different way, because it sort of represents a lot of the work that has been done over the past few years within COPIM, but also with external project partners, to create a wide and interconnected set of infrastructures based on shared values. And these infrastructures provide the tools, connections, and knowledge to support Diamond community-led open access book publishing. So while the project ends in April, these infrastructures and the ecosystem they contribute to will remain. Next slide, please. We hope that more publishers, authors, and libraries will become involved in our work, and that can take many different forms. For example, people can apply to the Open Book Collective, or people can use Tote. Libraries can support all of them. But as I've alluded to throughout my part of the talk, we're interested in community building more broadly and outside of ourselves, and in providing resources openly so that others can do this. So, for example, anyone can, in principle, adopt and adapt them to suit their own needs. The governance documentation for the Open Book Collective is freely available, as is the code base for Tote Open Metadata, as I mentioned, our own Opening the Future documentation, which is available as a detailed toolkit. We hope that these tools will enable other local communities to grow that support Diamond Open Access. And I will now hand back to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Kira. So just a final quick word. Over the time we've been working as COPIM, and particularly with the development of the second COPIM project, the Open Book Futures project, we've gradually been becoming more international. We've been making more connections with organisations and with individuals in different parts of the world. So COPIM 1 was mostly focused on Europe and North America. COPIM Open Book Futures has allowed us to forge partnerships with organisations in Latin America and in Africa. And these partnerships sometimes have been at the level of kind of formal collaboration, formal project partners, such as Cielo, for example. And sometimes it's been collaborating with independent organisations, for example, the African Universities Network, but having a kind of close relationship and sharing knowledge and sharing news, sharing what's happening in each project or each organisation, to try and find ways that we can work together more closely. And partnerships like these have been forged through conferences, for example, and online meetings like the conference that we're all attending today. And these have led to then sort of bigger connections between organisations and individuals. So we wanted to close by just issuing an invitation that if you're interested in the work we've been describing and you want to get in touch, please contact us either at this event as we're at the different talks, or by email. And we'd love to talk and find out if there are ways that we could work together. So thanks very much for listening. And if we've time for questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the both of you. We have about 2 minutes for questions before we go on lunch break. And let's see, there's kind of like a long winding list of questions that are not directed to anybody in specifically. Well, I think this one's relevant. It goes, how can advocacy campaigns address misconceptions about open access, such as concerns about quality or prestige?
I think there's different ways of tackling this problem. At the Open Access Books Network, which I'm one of the coordinators of, we produced a series of very short, sort of 2-minute videos called Mythbusters, tackling some of these myths and misconceptions. So that's one way of doing it. I think another way is to get, it depends, I suppose, where the misconceptions lie. So if it's with authors, to get authors who have published open access and who understand, you know, the fact that some of these myths are myths, to address them at events. For example, we've got an author, Caroline Warman at Open Book Publishers, who speaks very well about the experience of publishing with us. And I always am struck by the impact she has on her peers when she speaks, because they trust her and they believe what she says. So those are 2 ways that that could be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do have questions, but for the 2 previous presentations, but I'm hoping Dr. Samir, yeah, still there. Okay, here's a question from Tuba. She asks, how likely do you think this and similar mechanisms can become an industry standard?
What's this that Tuba's referring to?
With mechanisms, I mean your platforms, and there are similar, not only for books, but also for journals, there are similar mechanisms. Do you think these mechanisms can become industry standards, can become fully accepted by all authors all around the world, and, you know, rather than going for commercial publishers, authors will go for your platforms and your mechanisms, you know?
Kira, did you want to answer that one, or do you want me to?
I guess I think, yeah, I'm sort of struck by industry standard, because I'm thinking a little bit about industry here, because I guess when I think industry, I think about these very, very large publishers, whereas obviously the approach that we're outlining is sort of scaling small. It's a very, very different one. I think if I were to think about this as sort of widespread adoption, I think it's certainly something that could, because these are mechanisms that work really, really well for everyone, right? Like they're cost effective for users because they're open source. They're cost effective for libraries for various sort of quite lengthy reasons. But I think it partly comes down to doing the right sort of outreach, particularly to libraries and to authors, to sort of demonstrate the viability and sustainability and sort of quality of these mechanisms. So I think that possibly, yes, one day, but there still remains a lot of work to do. Lucy, I don't know.
Yeah, I would just agree, really. I mean, I think part of the strength of scaling small is that a lot of the organizations involved are small, but they're also quite specific to their own context. So they serve a particular group very well in a way that you couldn't if you were a massive organization. So I think that is a strength, but it also means that you have to, that outreach becomes quite complicated because you are reaching out to a lot of different groups. And I think the big thing as well that affects our ability to be effective in this way is the kind of prestige and recognition and reward for academics is still very much focused on, you know, these kind of, in the journal world, the kind of journals that are indexed and have got high impact factors, and there's a kind of softer kind of form of prestige in book publishing as well. So I think that's a big hurdle to overcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you everybody, and to our speakers for sharing your perspectives, and thank you for your time. And to our audience for joining us and engaging in the discussion. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut this now because we have to go on lunch break before the next session. So please check the program on our website for what's coming up next. If we didn't get to your question today, please feel free to connect with the speakers or reach out to us, to the forum team, and we'll be happy to facilitate those connections. Yeah, thank you for being part of the 4th Annual Forum, and we hope you continue to enjoy the rest of the event.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.